Hi everyone, Brian S33 here. Today, you will be learning the basics of Japanese. I recorded this video when I was at FanimeCon. I went to a panel called Japanese 101 Anime Edition. All credit goes to the guy hosting the panel, teaching me and all of you Japanese. I have the right to record the video as you will see here. Bam! I also asked for his permission to upload to YouTube, so we are good to go on that end. However, I do not own the rights to Ori no Imoto, Madoka Magica, Azumongo Daio, and Non Biori. As you will see, I had to block the visual for Non Biori because of copyright, so please support the official releases of those anime. Anyways, I want you guys to be able to experience learning Japanese like I did, so without further ado, here we go.
And hopefully you'll be there trying your best with me too. Okay.
That's fine.
So this is a very, very, very quick introduction on pronunciation. Pronunciation in Japanese is actually insanely easy. Especially if you know English, you'll realize that Japanese people have much more trouble speaking English than we have pronouncing Japanese words. And it's just a function of the fact that there's not many sounds in the Japanese language. The two things that I really want to emphasize is that if you see a double consonant in Japanese, it means you pause. So the difference between these two words is the bottom word is mata, and the top word is matta. So there's a pause between where you see the double consonant, you stop for a sec. And if you get more and more Japanese, you'll get very sensitive to this thing, because these two words mean completely different things. Similarly, with double vowels, you hold the double vowel longer. Haku versus haku, right? So you can hear the pause. So yeah, once again, we're moving really quickly. So I just want to move right into an example of a Japanese sentence. I'm not going to expect you to read that. I'm actually not going through any writing in this panel, because writing is a whole different ballgame, and that's like really the limiting factor, just all the memorization of the kanji. If you want to learn more about that, you can always ask me after the panel a little bit about that. So actually, how the panel will generally run is we're going to see a sentence like this on screen. So this was the previous sentence, except written out in Roman letters. And because I don't expect you to know any vocabulary, I'm actually going to give you all the noun definitions. So some of you might know, like, well, of course, kapu ramen is kapu ramen. That's, like, a lot of Japanese words are loans, so you probably guess what that means, but I'm still going to just give you translations of all the nouns. So what I want to do is I want to try to translate this sentence, because it's a very basic example of what a Japanese sentence sounds like. Now, the key, because you have all these nouns, so the only thing that really is separating us from understanding the sentence is how do we fit these nouns together? And we fit these nouns together with these very short syllables in the middle of all these nouns. This is the crux of the Japanese language, and these short syllables are called particles. Particles are I guess the closest thing to particles in English is like a preposition. Like if I say my shoes are in the closet, in tells me that my shoe is physically located within the closet, right? So a particle is a similar thing. It tells you what the function of a noun or a part of the sentence is. And the important thing to realize is that particles always modify what's preceding them. So whereas I say in the closet, in Japanese it would actually be closet in. In is telling you about the word before the particle. So these are a few examples of very, very common particles. No is basically a preposition, is basically an apostrophe s. And ga and wa means they mark the subjects of the sentences. So if you see a noun and then it's followed by a ga or a wa, then that means that noun is the subject of the sentence. Ni, for example, is the same thing as in a lot of cases. Like in the closet you would use ni. De means location of an action. So if I played at the park, at would be de. And wo is pretty important. It marks a direct object. So if you see a noun and wo, you'll know that noun is a direct object. So going back to this sentence, we actually had all of these particles already in that sentence. And what the interpretation of these particles are is basically this. So wa marks the subject, right? So watashi is I. So it means I am the subject of the sentence. Kinjo means neighborhood, and konbini means convenience store. So no, remember, is an apostrophe s. Remember, actually, when I say remember, I don't expect you to remember everything I'm saying. Remember, just try to follow along the gist of the discourse. So no is the apostrophe s. So kinjo no konbini means the neighborhood contains this convenience store. The convenience store belongs to the neighborhood. De is location of action, right? I played at the park. So it tells me that something happened at this convenience store. And what happened? Well, I bought some cup ramen. Cup ramen, wo is direct object, so it tells us the cup ramen is the direct object of the sentence, and then kaimashita is to buy in the past tense. So if you put it all together, I, as the subject, went to the neighborhood convenience store. That's where the action took place, and there I bought a bit of cup ramen. So the correct translation is I bought cup ramen at the neighborhood convenience store. So this is the. So does anybody have any questions right now? Yeah.
All the examples were you just using the articles in that context? Because I know that.
If I introduce particles in a new context that I haven't defined before, I will define it for you. So I will never give you a grammatical object without defining it. So it should be okay. I want you to notice something very strange about this sentence. The verb is at the end. Right? To buy is at the end of the sentence. And this is what trips English speakers up a lot about Japanese sentences. It usually goes subject, object, verb. So instead of, in English I would say I bought cup ramen. Here it's I cup ramen bought. And this is a general thing throughout all of Japanese. You almost always have the verb coming after everything, which is very strange. So just keep that in mind. Right. So this is exactly what I'm saying. The basic idea of a Japanese sentence, and really this is, if you get anything out of this panel, just this is the basic idea of Japanese. It's a bunch of stuff, and the stuff ends with a verb, and that verb tells you what the verb is of the sentence, but also the stuff is followed by particles, which tell you the function of each segment of stuff. Okay? And just a caution that English intuition kind of starts to fail because in Japanese, everything is kind of presented in opposite order. You know, particles follow the things that they modify. All right, so I'm going to keep a grammar reference list, and I think sometimes after the panel, I can also maybe post this up online somewhere, of just, as soon as we add grammatical objects, I'll just add them to the list, yeah? Yes. It's genderless, and there are also differences between wa and ga, but I haven't even found a textbook that explains this very well, so I'm not even going to try in this panel. If you're interested, I can also, yeah.
If I remember, wa is for.
So the definition is wa is for. Right. Right. But we're just going to say this out of the scope for now, and just treat them as the same. Okay. So now we're going to start. This is actually a light novel. How many have actually read or seen the show? Yeah. Okay. So around the third of you. So this is the sentence we're actually going to translate. We're just going to translate the title. Who can tell me the correct translation of the title? Yeah. The correct translation is "My little sister can't be this cute." Which is false. His little sister is actually completely a little monster, and it's awful to everyone. So I don't know why they're naming it that. But anyway, it is a complete sentence. So I thought we start with examples that some people might actually understand how to translate already, because they've seen it translated before. So the correct translation is "My little sister can't be this cute." I want to show you how we get there. So once again, I'm going to give you all the nouns. We're going to focus on the first half of the sentence, up to kawaii. How many people know kawaii means cute? Yeah, I figured that's the one word that everyone would know. How many people know imoto means little sister? Okay, that's also pretty popular nowadays, so it's not surprising. So we're going to translate the first part of the sentence first. Now, I'm going to first show you that konna ni kawaii means this cute. So it's kind of an emphatic version of, oh, she's this cute. And the reason is, there's this entire, very important class of words, kono, sono, and ano. So what they really are the Japanese equivalents of this and that. So if I have a box, and boxes in this diagram, box is hako. If I say kono hako, that means this box is close to me. Sono hako would mean like that box that's over there by your feet, and ano hako would mean like that box over there in the distance that I can sort of see, but it's really far away. So they're really words for this. You're pointing to an object, and The difference between the words is they express distance from the speaker. Right, so you can also go through a lot of different, because kono hako means this box. You can also say kore, which just means this. You don't have to end it with a noun. But in this case, konnani is a conjugation of kono, which presents itself like an adverb. So if kono is this, konnani means this adjective. So this cute, this pretty, this delicious, right? So, and you can also use sonnani, that cute, that delicious, that pretty. So all of this carries over. So in this case, konnani kawaii, because kawaii means cute and it's an adjective, this means as cute as this. So everything else actually we've already been able to do. Ore no imoto, because ore means I and imoto means my little sister. Ore no imoto means no is an apostrophe s, it means my little sister. Ga, yeah. Yeah. So there's also gendered first-person pronouns and these kinds of things. Not going to really go into that because once again, a little bit out of scope. Ga, once again, is the subject marker. It tells me that my little sister is the subject of the sentence, and then the only reasonable way to put this together is my little sister is as cute as this, right? So that clause is fine. Now we get into something a little bit more complicated, the wake right there. So wake means reason. And what I want to show you is that basically you have an entire complete sentence. My little sister is as cute as this, and then it's followed by a noun, reason. And the way the Japanese works is when this happens, the entire sentence modifies the noun. It's like a noun phrase. And so this entire segment means the reason that my little sister is as cute as this. I want to just go into this a bit. So back to the original sentence that I started out with at the beginning of the panel. The cup ramen, I bought cup ramen at the neighborhood convenience store. If you actually put the entire clause, kinjo no konbini de katta, which means bought yesterday at the convenience store, that's also a complete sentence, and you follow it with the noun. Once again, if a noun directly follows a clause, then the entire clause modifies the noun. And this is called a noun phrase. In English, this kind of translates to, in this case, the cup ramen that I bought at the convenience store. It's that. So, and everything followed by after that is a complete sentence, and then it's talking about the cup ramen, right? So does that kind of make sense to everyone? So if you see a complete sentence and then it's followed by a noun, then that complete sentence acts like a noun phrase that modifies the noun. The only exception is when the clause ends in te, but we'll get into that a little bit later because there are a few exceptions. So, ore no moto ga konnani kawaii means it means my little sister is as cute as this, and then because I followed it with a reason, this reads the reason that my little sister is as cute as this. So what does the ganai mean? Not. Yes. So if you ever have seen anime and you've seen nai, the phrase nai, that means no. It negates everything. So nai. One thing to really remember is that nai negates things. So here you see like wakaru is the verb for to understand. Wakaranai means to not understand. Similarly, arukeba, if we walk, arukanakia, if we don't walk. I know that the nai is a little hidden there, but it's there. So once you start, you get really sensitive to hearing the syllable na in Japanese because it generally means no. So by itself, if you just see nai, it means does not exist. So in this case, it just, because you see it by itself, it just straight means does not exist. So in this case, it means the reason that my little sister is as cute as this does not exist, right? Because the reason is the subject, because it's marked by ga again, and then nai tells us that it does not exist. So the total sentence is the reason that my little sister is as cute as this does not exist. Of course, this is crappy English, right? So if you want to translate this, you don't translate that this way. So you translate it as there is no way my little sister could be as cute as this. Okay? Deep breath. Everyone doing okay? It only gets worse from here. So basically we've covered a lot of other things. One of the most important things we've covered is that if you see an entire clause preceding a noun, then that forms a noun phrase. We've also covered these kono, sono, ano, this, there, that kind of constructions, and then we've learned that nai implies negation. Those were the three major things that we learned in that sentence. All right, get into like things where, well, I said there were no pictures, but there are. I have videos. A lot of you this might be the first time a lot of you have seen raw anime, and you can like wallow in how uncomfortable it makes you feel to hear the Japanese without seeing the subtitles. But let's just see. So now we're actually going to go into actual anime and try to translate stuff. Once again, very, very famous phrase that I expect some of you at least will know the translation to. So, だから僕と契約して魔法少女になっている. What's the translation, someone? Anyone? You want to guess?
Therefore, if you make a
Yeah, make a contract with me and become a magic girl. Right? That's the translation. It's kind of like one of the iconic lines from this series. So, what does it mean? How do you actually translate this? Once again, here's the sentence in English, and here are all the nouns. Boku is basically the same as ore, as we saw in the previous slide. It's just a different level of masculinity, but once again, we're not really going into that. And then I've also translated all the verbs: to make a contract, magical girl, and natte is a conjugation of the verb to become. Now, one thing that I want to say is we're going to introduce a new particle now, the particle to. What to means, it means with or and. So in this case, because to, what's the word that directly comes before to? Boku. So me comes directly before to, and remember, particles always act on the word before them. So this means with me, right? So boku to means with me. The other particle here that we kind of introduced before but haven't talked about is ni, which means in, like I put my shoes in the closet, or towards. So it generally refers to when you have an action that's towards something. And in this case, you have this verb to become, and you're saying you're becoming towards a magical girl. That's how you really conceive it in Japanese. So like the verb to become usually takes ni as a particle, because become kind of implies you're becoming towards, like you're moving towards something. Alright, so now of course this is actually the first sentence where we've had a proper verb, so we have to talk about verbs, which really 90% of Japanese grammar is couched in how verbs work. So just a basic introduction. All Japanese verbs end in the letter U. In their standard forms, all Japanese verbs end in U. So taberu means to eat, aruku means to walk. A disproportionate number of them end in RU. But there are definitely verbs that end in KU and just plain U, verb with U. Now, suru is an insanely important Japanese verb. It means to do. In fact, suru is one of only 2 irregular Japanese verbs. This is why Japanese is awesome, because if you've ever tried to learn English or Spanish or any other language, there's like 70 million irregular verbs. In Japanese, there are 2. One is suru, so you should know suru. Suru means to do. The other is kuru, which means to come. But we're not going to get into that now. Suru is insanely important because if you have a noun like keiyaku, which means contract, and you stick the word to do after it, you turn the noun into a verb. Keiyaku means contract. Keiyaku suru is a proper Japanese noun that means to make a contract. So suru is, there's an entire class of verbs where all you have is a noun and then you add a verb to the end of it, and then you make a suru verb, which in this case means to make a contract. Alright, so we actually now need to talk about these verbs that end in te. So keiyaku shite is a conjugation of keiyaku suru, but it's shite, not suru, right? So what does that mean? So the te form of verb, and this is like not something that they introduce until at least like 2nd semester of Japanese. So this is already, we're fast forwarding a lot. So the te form of verbs, there's a lot of usages of the te forms of verbs, and we're only going to go through a few of them. But there's also some conjugation rules that I'm not going to go into, but here you can see a few verbs conjugated. As long as you think it's a verb and it ends in te, then it's the te form. So suru conjugates to shite, and kuru, which is to come, conjugates to kite. So the simplest usage of a te form verb is a simple command. So if you just have a te form verb, and you just say it by itself, it just means you're commanding something to it. So tabete means eat it, which sounds really aggressive. I don't know why. You can make it sound less aggressive by adding kudasai or onegai shimasu, which means please. So if you have a take form of verb and kudasai, you actually, it's a polite command. So tabete kudasai means please eat it, which still sounds, passive aggressive, but anyway, you can do other things. Te iru means present progressive, so I am eating it. So something that you're doing right now, something that's currently the state. One important usage of teiru is if you have wakaru, which means to understand. If you say I understand something, you always use wakatteru. So I am understanding it. That's kind of an idiomatic usage, but you never say I understand, you say I am understanding it in Japanese. And then there's a bunch of other usages, I'm not going to go into it. The second important usage is as a conjunction. So if you have a te form, yeah, there's a question?
Would saying tabete imasu just be a more formal way of saying it?
Tabete imasu means I am eating it in a more formal way. Yeah, so there's a whole formality system that, once again, scope issues, I'm not going to go into too much. Yeah?
For the first one, tabete, would tabete kure also work?
Yeah, that's a very informal kind of rude. You probably don't want to use tabete kure. That just makes it sound like really mean. But yeah, it's a similar thing. There's a lot of command forms with T. The second important usage of the te form is it splits the sentence into two. So, for example, if you want to say I ate the apple, and there's a sentence where I ate the apple, and then I went home, but you don't want to say it in two separate sentences, you want to add a comma and in the middle, you just break the sentence up with a T. So, ringo o tabete. Ringo o taberu means I eat an apple. So, ringo o tabete, ie ni kairimashita. So, this makes the sentence a compound sentence. You have two ideas and they're connected by an and. So, both of these usages are actually in this example. Right? So, alright, yeah. Both of these usages are actually in this example. The first example, it's in the middle of the sentence, right? So it's splitting the sentence into two. The second example is at the end of the sentence. Yo, I guess I forgot to explain yo. Yo is just an apostrophe, an exclamation mark, so you can ignore yo. But the second te verb is at the end of the sentence, so it is a command. The first te verb is in the middle of the sentence, so it's an apostrophe and. Once again, lots of usages, but based on context, you can usually figure out what's going on. If you actually start reading the sentence, dakara means therefore. Therefore, with me, make a contract. So and become a magical girl, right? Mahou shoujo ni naru means to become a magical girl. Naru means to become, and then it takes the particle ni. Okay. So our grammar list has increased a bit. I'm bolding the things that we kind of have gone over in the previous example. This list will get smaller and smaller fonts as we go along, and it'll be pretty amazing how much grammar will be on this slide at the end of the panel. Everyone still doing okay? Okay, cool. Now we get into Azumangadayo. It's actually a great, very lighthearted show about a few girls who go through high school, so I actually very much recommend it if people have it. Oh right, we can watch the sub version now. So dakara was therefore, but in this case it was referencing something beforehand, so they translated to if you want to do that. Yeah, okay, so let's watch the next clip we're going to work on.
早速だけど転入生を紹介します三浜千代ちゃんです三浜千代ですよろしくお願いします千代ちゃんは10歳だけどとっても優秀なので高校に編入してきましたガキのくせに勉強できるからっていじめないでくださいね
Alright, so clearly you didn't get the joke, but we're gonna translate the joke. In fact, we're gonna translate that entire segment. So things are gonna get longer because we've already built up a few basic grammatical objects. So we can actually start getting into some more detail. This is the whole segment. So once again, exponential increase. This train is speeding up. So we're gonna go through this sentence by sentence. So this is the first sentence, and once again, here are all of the translated words. Right now see on the bottom, there's another suru verb, right? Shokai means introduction, so shokai suru means to make an introduction. You see this pattern all over the place in Japan. You can't survive without the verb suru. Alright, so one thing I want to mention is kedo is pretty important. It means but. If you ever see kedo, it implies contrast. Actually, you often see kedo used in situations where there is not really a contrast, but because Japanese is such a polite language, they like to sound like they're like contradicting themselves all the time, so they don't sound like rude. It's kind of inbuilt in the Japanese language that there's contradictions everywhere, implicitly in the sentences. But in this case, you can just take home with you that kedo means but. Now, this is another important word that probably some of you at least know what it means. So everyone has heard des, hopefully, or in some form. Da is not the Russian da. It's the informal version of des. They're all the same word. It's just one is more informal than the other. And this is called the copula in Japanese. A less technical way to explain it is this is just the verb to be. Like it is. I am a student is watashi wa gakusei desu. Right? So every time you hear des at the end of a sentence, they're basically drawing an equal sign in the sentence, right? They're saying like something is something else. There are also a bunch of conjugations. You'll notice that I'm not going into the conjugations very much because it's not reasonable to like give you tables of rules so that you can conjugate verbs. But important conjugations, you probably hear janai a lot in Japanese. That's the negative version of des. And the formal version of that is dewa arimasen. But in anime, you usually hear informal versions, so you probably are more familiar with janai. Alright, so this basically is the Japanese version of the verb is, to be. So, we can translate both of these parts of the sentence. Sassoku da kedo. Sassoku means sudden. Now remember, double letters means pause, right? So I'm pronouncing it sassoku. So you can hear me trying to pause that. This is sudden, but, and then the last sentence is just, this is Mihama Chio-chan. Now, I want to point out that the last sentence can also be translated to I am Mihama Chio-chan. You really don't know who's speaking, but once you realize that it's the teacher speaking, she can't be introducing herself as the other guy, right? So she has to be saying this is. So the other thing that's really important to notice here is Japanese is very contextual. You have to really understand who's speaking to translate Japanese correctly. Because a lot of sentences have multiple translations that are all grammatically correct, but in context only one is correct. In this case, this is Mihama Chio-chan, not I am Mihama Chio-chan. Alright. And then everything else is actually pretty cut and dry. Tenyusei means transfer student, wo marks the direct object, and the verb acting on the direct object is to introduce. So I am going to introduce a transfer student. Right? That makes sense. That is all stuff we have already covered before. Cool. So that's our phrase. So we're doing well so far. This one is actually pretty cut and dry as well. Mihama Chio desu means I am Mihama Chio because now it's actually Chio speaking. So even though it's the same sentence, it's translated differently because it's a different speaker. It's kind of strange for English speakers, but that's inbuilt into Japanese. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu is a pain to translate, but it's an idiomatic phrase that just means like nice to meet you, or it means please take care of me in the future. It's kind of like what you say to new people when you want to get along. So that's just another noun that like, it's a definition, so I'm not going to walk you through that. So the second one is I'm Mihama Chio, pleased to meet you. Great. So what's the third one? Third one looks a little scarier. So this doesn't stop. I'm just warning you. So, 千代は10歳だけど、とても優秀だから、高校に編入してきました。Alright, what does that mean? Once again, you have the kedo there, which means but, right? You have the kedo which introduces some kind of contrast into the sentence. You also have kara. Kara and kedo were kind of at ends with each other. Kedo means but, and kara means because. So they're kind of like antonyms. One implies contrast and the other implies reasoning. So we can already translate the first half. Chio is the subject of the sentence. Chio wa 10歳だ. 10歳 is 10 years old, and da is the copula, which means to be, right? So Chio wa 10歳だ means Chio is 10 years old, but now, totemo yushu da, I'll just rewind this. Totemo is adjective that means very, and then yushu is a noun that means talented. And then once again, again, you have the copula. Yeah. So it means she is very talented. Okay? So Chio is 10 years old, but she is very talented, and therefore, so the therefore comes from the kata from your next line. Now, what do we do with the henyu shite kimashita? So you'll notice that suru once again is conjugated as the te form. So it's suru in the te form is shite, and then it's shite kimashita. So this is a conjugation of a general thing called te kuru. So if you have a te verb and it's followed by kuru, which means to come, it generally implies that the verb is talking about an action that's coming towards you. Right? That makes total sense, right? It's a verb, and then you stick come. So like you came to eat at my party would generally be a situation where you use tekuru in Japanese. So in that kind of situation. So in this case, it means she came over to our school and she skipped grades, right? There's a bit of a nuance there of she came that is a bit lost in the translation, but it's there because of the tekuru. So we can actually finish this. So 千代は10歳だけど、とても優秀だ。We already finished that portion. 高校に編入してきました。高校 means high school, and に means towards. It's a particle that tells you that something is moving towards something else. So, she came towards our high school to transfer and skip grades, right? Kind of makes sense? Right, so this is the complete translation. She was 10 years old, but she is very talented, and therefore she came to our high school after skipping grades. So I just moved around the English because, of course, if you try to translate this literally, then you run into a big mess. So Chio is 10 years old, but she's so talented that she skipped her way to high school. That is how I would translate this sentence. All right. Next sentence is very complicated. I don't think anyone needs a translation of that. But all right. So what's the last phrase? ガキのくせに勉強できるからっていじめないでくださいね. This was the joke that maybe a lot of people kind of didn't get. Right, so you can already tell, you probably never refer to anyone as a brat in Japanese unless you want to get punished in the face. So it starts off very informally. Now, no kuseni is another idiomatic phrase that means despite the fact. So it literally means like she has the makings of a brat, although. Like, so it's generally used in a derogative manner to imply contrast, to imply that someone is like even though this person is stupid, they can do something. Like it's used in a derogatory manner. So even though she's just a brat, she is good at school. Now, I want to emphasize that dekiru is actually a very important verb as well. I know I've been saying this is very important like every 30 seconds, but this is the point of the panel that I'm going through every single important thing in like basic Japanese. So dekiru is basically the potential version of the verb suru. So suru means to do, dekiru means be able to do. So if you use dekiru, you know that someone is talking about someone being able to do something. So benkyo means study. And remember, if you combine a noun with suru, you make a verb. So benkyo suru means to study. And because dekiru is the potential form of suru, benkyo dekiru means to be able to study. Does that make sense? Okay. So, I translated this, of course, benkyo dekiru generally means good at school. So I'm just going to translate it as good at school. But you can see where it comes from. It means to be able to study. Karate is another phrase. Once again, I know there's a lot of phrases, so I'm just going to define them for you. You don't have to pay attention too much to them. It just means just because. So, just because of that. So even though she's a brat, she's good at school. Just because of that, ijimenai de kudasai ne. Now, ijimeru is a verb that means to bully. Actually, some of you might have heard the verb the word ijime before. It means like bullying. It's actually a pretty big problem in Japanese culture. So there's a lot of like articles written about it. So maybe not. But the verb is ijimeru, means to bully. Now, if you ever see, so the te form of ijimeru is ijimete, right? So te form means command, right? So ijimete means please bully me, but of course you'd never want to say that unless you're a very strange person. But if you want to make the negative of that, ijimete, te becomes a naide. So de and te are intimately connected. Te and like de kind of sounds like te. So if you see de, you also kind of like think that you're in the te form situation. So if izimete means to bully as a command, izimenaide means do not bully as a command. It's the same thing. You can also and remember, if you add kudasai, it's a kind of it's a polite command. So ijimenai da kudasai means please don't bully me. But in this case, we know what they're talking about. It means they're talking about her. So the whole sentence says, even though she's a brat, she's good at school, but just because of that, don't bully. Okay? So correct translation, because there's a bit of a swagger to this sentence. You want to correct the translation. She might just be a brat who's good at school, but don't bully her. Okay? Right. So that was kind of the intonation there. But you can see kind of how all the pieces fit together. So once again, here's the translation. Let's actually watch the clip. It's kind of the fruits of our labors moment.
早速だけど転入生を紹介します三浜千代ちゃんです三浜千代ですよろしくお願いします千代ちゃんは10歳だけどとっても優秀なので高校に編入してきましたガキのくせに勉強できるからっていじめないでくださいね
Right. So we did fine, right? We did it. We can give ourselves a round of applause. Yay. So I hope you're starting, when we're watching the clip for the second time, you're starting to actually kind of hear the words that we've been talking about in the clip. Because I know when you're watching subs, a lot of times you don't hear anything because you're just kind of staring at the subs. So hopefully this is the first opportunity where you're starting to listen to the Japanese as well. Right. So I wanted to like go a little bit more into the potential tense. I introduced this word dekiru, which means to be able to do already. You can also conjugate normal verbs, because that's the conjugation of suru, to do, into the potential tense. You can also conjugate normal verbs like aruku, which means to walk. Usually, if you see any verb that ends in eru or rareru, which is pronounced rareru, which is awful to pronounce if you're just learning Japanese, but you have to get used to it, it usually means that something is potential tense. It's talking about you can do something. So here's a few examples. I can speak Japanese. Like literally, I can do Japanese. That's suru, like dekiru. John wa biru 3本を飲める. John can drink 3 beers. Nomeru means can drink. Right? Kimi ga unmei wo kaerareru. You can change fate. That was actually in the Madoka clip. It was part of the Madoka clip that we didn't translate. But this is all basically you're constructing the potential tense, and this is all stuff that we have learned enough how to do. Actually, we're running a little tight, so we can save questions till the end. All right. So once again, font is getting smaller. Things are getting squeezed together, but hopefully we're learning a bit more. So I'm just going to move on to our last translation snippet from Non Non Biori. How many people have watched Non Non Biori? Oh, that's more. This coming out soon, so please, people, watch it.
You don't marathon it. You waste the relaxation that it is.
Oh yeah, don't marathon it. Like watch it when it's a rainy day and you need some time. So of course, with Non Non Biori, there's one famous word that is said in Non Non Biori.
あんなってやばずどの道わけわからん何なのそれにゃんパスにゃんパスたまちゃんは姉ちゃんは先に出たこんなに天気いいのに今日も学校かうっちゃんピカピカの1年生だから楽しいのは今のうちだけだよ学校生活ってのはね大変なんだよ宿題とかテストとか宿題とか
Alright. This is the final step that we're going to take. This is the final one that we're going to do. Honestly, this is actually not that difficult because most of it is one word. So most of the lines are one word. So this might not actually be as rough as the last one. Alright, so let's start. These things, okay, who can tell me what Ohio means? Yeah. Good morning. Alright, Ohio or Ohio gozaimasu means good morning. Cool. All this other stuff is made up crap, so we don't have to translate it. So nyampasu is actually kind of this cutesy word that spawned an entire meme that is awesome. If you go to nyampasu.com, I think there's actually a button that you can push. It just goes nyampasu every time you click it, and you just stand there clicking it for an hour and not knowing what you're doing. So this is like kind of where we're starting to get into questions, which is something that a lot of people might be interested in. Koma-chan wa is, remember, the subject marker. So it's telling us that Koma-chan is the subject of the sentence. The thing is, it's obviously asked in a question format. So really you're just saying, what's up with Koma-chan? Like, where is she, or what is she doing, or something like that. In this case, by context, you kind of realize that she's saying, where is she, because she's not there. Alright, so just an aside into Japanese questions. Here are some very common question words. Doko means where, dono means which, itsu means when, nani means what. If you go to Japan, you probably know ikura, which means how much is this thing, how much is this wall scroll, DVD, whatever. If you have a question in Japanese, the question is usually marked at the end by ka or no. So for example, here you have a few examples, like basu wa itsu ni ikimasu ka? So you see that ka at the end, which tells you it's a question. When will the bus come? Dono basu wo norimasu ka? Which bus will I ride? You can, sometimes ka is omitted. Actually, when you're learning Japanese, you realize the entire point is that, like, towards the end of Japanese, people start omitting parts of the sentence because they expect you to understand it. So, Japanese is one language that it kind of almost gets harder as much as the more you learn it, because there's a lot of like slang at the end. But for now, we're not going to focus on slang. Anyway, one other thing about questions is it's actually very useful to use this question particle ka and put it after question words, and then you can form these kinds of words. So if itsu is when, itsuka is sometime, right? Like so itsuka kare ga kuru, he will come sometime. So this isn't like a question anymore, but there's like some kind of questioning aspect to it. Alright, the other thing that's really important in this like whole thing that I'm going to actually introduce it before going to the sentences is quotation particles. Quotation particles are to or te. They are usually associated with the verb you, which just is the verb that means to say. So kare wa ishada to itta. He said that he is a doctor. I put the ishada, which means I am a doctor, in quotes, and then it's directly followed by a quotation marker. Quotation marker to or te means quotation. So in the previous sentence, you actually saw nandatte. Nanda means what, and then te is a quotation marker. So it means, what the hell did you say? Like, I did not catch that at all. Like, it's a question, and there's a quotation marker, so it implies that something was being said that was strange. So the other important thing about te is that they can be used to define things. So aite muzukashii means love is difficult. I means love, so I, like, love equals difficult is kind of the implication of that sentence. 学生というのは学校に通う人です. A student, 学生, is someone who attends school, right? So we have 5 minutes, so we're going to have to finish this pretty quick. So once again, nandatte means what did you say, as we just saw. Donomichi wake wakaran. Nan nano sore. All right, let's continue. So donomichi means whatever. Wake we already saw in the first example means reason, and then wakaranai means to understand. So this actually, we already have enough information to translate this entire sentence. Donomichi wake, what reason? Ga means what reason is the subject? Wakaranai. I don't understand what reason there was. Like, what the hell did you just say? Right? That's what that means. Nan desu ka sore? Nan desu ka means what was that? Like nan desu means like nani, which means what. And then ka sore. What is that? I have no idea what that is. Come again. Okay? Let's keep on going. Ne-chan wa saki ni deta. So we already went through all of this. Saki means ahead, and ni is like, remember, like towards. So she went out. It's saying that her sister went out beforehand. Okay. I know I'm kind of speeding along now, but I want to finish the last two because there we get some more stuff. All right. こんなに天気いいのに今日も学校か. So こんなに we've already seen means this much or like this. 天気がいい. Weather. 天気 means weather and い means good. Now, noni is a different particle that we haven't seen before. It also implies contrast. So it's kind of like no kuseni, but it's much less derogatory. It's actually just a general thing that you use it to imply contrast in the sentence. So the weather is good. Tenki ga ii means weather is good, literally. Tenki is weather, and ii is an adjective meaning good. So the weather is good, but Now, mo is a very important particle as well. It means also. It can be used in place of ga or wa to mark a subject, but it has the additional connotation of something also happening. So, こんなに天気がいいのに今日も学校か is the weather is so good, but there's still school today. 今日も学校. Today is still school. I know that's like really informal, but that's how a lot of Japanese sentences are constructed. You have to understand from context what they mean. All right. So we have school today, even though the weather is so nice. Is basically the idea of the sentence. I'm going to skip the grammar focuses here. Let's keep on going. うちはピカピカの1年生だから楽しいの. I'm going to get rid of the non at the end because that's just her talking funny. And once again, we're not going into slang, so I'm just going to replace it with the correct thing. So uchi means I. It's like usually used by younger children-ish. It's another first-person pronoun. Pika pika is sparkles, and first-year student, so a sparkly first-year student. Pika pika no ichinensei. Like it's a first-year student, and a no means like it's a first-year student with sparkles, right? It's apostrophe. Okay, yeah. Japanese they like sparkly things. It's fine. Once again, dakara means therefore, because we've already seen that before. Dakara or kara implies a reason, so the correct translation is, I'm a sparkly first grader, so I am excited. Tanoshi desu. I feel excitement, right? Tanoshi means fun, and then desu means the copula, which means idle. I hope you're realizing during this panel, because otherwise if I'm going this fast, you guys, if I went this fast at the beginning of the panel, you guys should be like, what the hell is going on, right? So if you're actually like kind of getting the ideas here, that's awesome. Yeah, words. All right, last stretch, guys. 楽しいのは今のうちだけだよ. This is actually not the complete sentence. We have to split this into two. So I'm going to say that no is generally a nominalizer. So remember when I said you have an entire clause, and then you follow it by a noun that nominalizes the clause, it creates a noun phrase, right? A very popular way to do that is just with no. So here you can see this, like taberu is to eat, sorry, let's go to the second example actually. Nihongo wo hanasu means to speak Japanese. Nihongo wo hanasu no means the act of speaking Japanese. So it basically turns a verb into a noun. And so if you actually go back to this, tanoshi no means like something that is fun or the pure act of having fun. Okay? Ima no uchi is just an expression, it means a matter of time. Dake is another particle that's really important, it means only. So it implies exclusivity, it implies that something is like, only that thing is possible. Only a matter of time. So, the correct translation is only a matter of time before the fun stops. Okay? The fun is only a matter of time, so it's only a matter of time before the fun stops. Okay, great. I have like one or two more slides. So I think they want me to get out, so I'm going to try to do this in a minute. So this is the last stretch. Taihen na no. No, remember, is a nominalizer, so you have an adjective right before it, tough. So taihen na no means something that is tough. Okay? So a difficult thing. So toyu no wa is a quotation particle. So it's creating a definition. Gakkou seikatsu means school life, and then we put a quotation particle right after it, and then followed by a difficult thing. So it's telling us school life equals a difficult thing. Toka is the last thing really. It means like this. It's when you have like a list and you're just saying like, oh, things like this or like that or like this or like that. So it's when you have a list and a bunch of nouns, you're making examples of certain things. So this says there's stuff like homework and tests and homework, right? So the correct translation, school life is tough, you know. There's homework and tests and homework and like other things, right? So this is the correct translation. This is the grammar list now. So if you want to take a photo, this is probably a good time to, and this is basically, do we have like 30 seconds to show the clip again? 30 seconds, yeah. Alright, so just to show the clip one more time, just so we kind of see the fruits of our labors.
なんだってやばずー海道わけわからん何なのそれいやんパスいやんパスコマちゃんは姉ちゃんは先に出たこの
Good job, everyone. Thank you so much for following along. These are great. If you have any questions, I'll be outside. Thank you.
A lot to take in, right? Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I put a lot of effort to upload this for all of you. Very soon I will be uploading more videos that I recorded at Fanime. Mostly maid videos though. Well, everyone, have a great day, and bye-bye.